Myanmar Air Force intensifies airstrikes in Maungdaw, Arakan state, civilians bear the brunt. The Myanmar junta regime has escalated its military offensive in Arakan state, launching intense airstrikes on multiple locations in Maungdaw and belonging areas. The strikes, which began in recent weeks, have targeted several villages and surrounding areas, resulting in casualties, severe injuries, and extensive property damage. With the situation worsening, local and international observers feared the devastating impact on civilian populations, with many forced to flee their homes in search of safety. Reports from the ground indicate that the airstrikes have primarily hit Maungdaw Township, where several villages have been severely affected. Residents report that bombs were dropped on residential areas, destroying homes, schools, and community facilities. The attacks have not only caused immediate fatalities but have also disrupted daily life, as local markets and essential services have been forced to close. Civilians, including children and the elderly, have borne the brunt of these attacks, with reports of dozens injured and several killed. The exact number of casualties remains uncertain, as the remote and conflict-ridden nature of the region makes it challenging to verify information. However, eyewitness accounts describe scenes of chaos and devastation, with survivors mourning the loss of loved ones and struggling to find basic necessities. Mass displacement, thousands flee to safety. As a direct consequence of the ongoing strikes, thousands of families are fleeing their villages, seeking refuge in safer areas or attempting to cross into neighboring Bangladesh. Displacement camps, which are already stretched thin, are now facing a new influx of people in desperate need of shelter, food, and medical care. Aid organizations report a growing humanitarian crisis, as resources are insufficient to support the newly displaced and vulnerable populations. The lack of infrastructure in these rural areas only exacerbates the challenge of providing aid, with blocked roads and damaged facilities hindering efforts to deliver emergency supplies. Humanitarian groups have raised alarm over potential shortages of food, water, and medical assistance, calling on the international community to intervene before the crisis worsens. The intensified strikes in Maungdaw and belonging areas are part of the Myanmar military's regions. The latest wave of attacks has drawn condemnation from international human rights organizations and governments, who have called on Myanmar's military to cease its campaign against civilian areas. The United Nations and various NGOs have urged the junta to allow humanitarian access to affected regions and to respect international laws protecting civilian populations in conflict zones. Several countries have also raised concerns at the UN Security Council, highlighting the need for increased diplomatic pressure on the junta to halt its violence in ethnic regions, including Arakan. However, with limited leverage, the international community's ability to directly intervene remains restricted, leaving local populations at the mercy of ongoing hostilities. The situation in Maungdaw and surrounding areas of Arakan continues to deteriorate, with each passing day intensifying the humanitarian crisis faced by Rohingya populations. The lack of access to basic services, combined with the trauma of displacement and loss, has left countless Rohingya civilians in a state of despair. Health clinics are overburdened, food supplies are running low, and displaced families are finding it increasingly difficult to secure shelter. As calls for international action grow louder, the need for immediate aid to reach those affected by the strikes has become critical. The ongoing conflict has already claimed numerous lives and upended thousands more. Without urgent intervention, the plight of the Rohingya people of Arakan is set to worsen, underscoring the need for sustained global attention and action. By Ahmed Arakani, the Arakan Associated Press. Please subscribe this channel to get more updates.